Hello, Star Wars CCG players, fans, and folks who just want to watch some Star Wars get played on a Sunday night. Garrett Larson here, Dead Body on Slack and the forums and everywhere else that matters in the Star Wars CCG world, bringing you the top 4 Retro GEMPC match between Pat Johnson and Brad Kippel. Full disclosure, Brad's the guy that knocked me out of this tournament. Pat is a teammate and friend. So obviously I have a rooting interest in this, but I am going to try and keep this as calm and straight as I can. That's how I enjoy this game. So Pat starting off with Bring It Before Me. Brad on light side starting with the Yavin 4 throne room. I do have a co-host listed on here. It is possible Ian will be jumping on and joining me. If that happens, awesome. If not, well, you got to see his name in there.
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you. You on here, Ian?
Yes, I am.
Beautiful. All right. So I can hear you. Hopefully our folks out in Twitch land can hear you as well. Brad with a pretty solid start here. Slow throws in Anger, Fear, Aggression, and a Goonie Tay as he started with Insurrection, Staging Areas, and Wise Advice. Pat started with Arrest Order, Mobilization Points, and Oppressive Enforcement. So I don't expect to see a lot of Sense Alter. I do expect to see some grabbers. Brad throws down the home one docking bay from reserve and just draws a couple. A pretty strong start for Brad. I mean, I'll be honest. The Anger, Fear, Aggression's good. The goo is really good.
Yeah,
This
first turn
is,
goo really slows Bring It Before Me down.
yeah, the first turn just you can't get Emperor is really mean. Like that's an early, if you get that in your opening hand with Throne Room, you're just super happy all the way around. So, Ian, I know you do and play a lot of the retro formats a little bit more than me. I play a lot of the retro. I played it back when it wasn't retro.
Right?
Um,
I'm with you there.
so what's your kind of take on the meta? Like, I know these are both popular decks. Throne Room is probably the most popular light side simply because it is very good. Bring It Before Me is strong, and
Yeah,
Pat
so I mean
saved all his force.
this is a pretty typical matchup for the format. Both of these are top decks in the format. Um, Brad has been running this TRM that leans hard into Anger, Fear, Aggression since last year's event,
Yep.
and just has tweaked it up. So here's the launching the assault, so he's going to get the home one package rather than Super Falcon, more than likely.
Which is a decent thing because there's definitely been the occasional tie decks that run the SFS cannon, which just murders Super Falcon. It was interesting to see Pat save his force. He was going to activate enough to get Palpatine from reserve either way. So I'm wondering if he had a second thought process there. Like even with goo, Palpatine's just going to cost you 5. So saving that 3 and not drawing
So I'm
seems like an
wondering if he
odd
had
play.
Piet in hand, because
I
then he can play Piet at the other docking bay.
don't think his deck runs Piet. If memory serves, this is a fairly straightforward Bring Him Before Me. Like, I don't think he's running Piet to get Mirjik to grab systems. Now, he might be, and I might be thinking of a different deck, but I don't think he's running that. As we see Palpatine go to the Death Star 2 docking bay, and now he
Now
picks
he's
up a
drawing.
couple. Yeah, but he's still saving 2. I'm wondering what he's working on here. I'm still a little curious. And did Brad, I didn't check, did Brad go grab his, he didn't grab home one with the launching. He may already have it in hand. And
Yeah.
there's Brad trying to tunnel vision. Pat senses it, so Pat is running some sense even with the oppressive enforcement package.
Well,
Brad,
Oppressive is the one that lets you actually continue to run Sense and Alter, which is nice. And Bring
it
Him Before Me has that nice early Emperor to run it off of.
yep, it definitely allows you to continue to run it. It just isn't always running. That is also can be a I'm just not running Sense Alter
Correct.
because I don't want to lose to it. And okay, if you cancel it, I'll send it to used and call it a day. And Brad just draws up after that tunnel vision got sensed. It did go to used because Brad started Wise Advice. And there's the out of commission to place something out of play, and Pat grabs that. I think that's a good grab for Pat.
It is, and I think Brad was probably just trying to dump the card out of his hand.
I think he was, and I think he's fine with dumping the card, but I think it's a card that could be some trouble for Pat at some point, and not giving Brad that easily cyclable 5
Oh,
is good.
absolutely. It was a great grab.
Like, I think it's absolutely the right grab. And I think Pat was smart in grabbing that instead of something like instead of the tunnel vision. Like, I think tunnel vision would have also been a solid grab. And I think Pat just said, tunnel vision's a lost interrupt. It's Destiny 3. There's only so many of them. And there the anger, fear, aggression pops.
And no
So
projective.
no projective on the play, which is a little unfortunate for Pat. Now, in theory, if he's got a spy, he could just take a run at Luke. I mean, we saw him draw the Mara, for the Sense Destiny. So I'm doubting he has a lot more spies, but he could still have another one. Like Captain Sarkley is pretty commonly used in things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he might be. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out why my pen decided not to work so I could write down the. We're just throwing it away. Pens are not expensive enough to stress out
I've
too much
also
over.
been seeing people go back to running Resistance. I feel like in large part because of Brad's deck.
I mean, resistance is good, but you've got to be at 3 battlegrounds, which Brad is going to try and keep you off of to get that. Like, I think the projectives to cancel anger, fear, aggression, and then sometimes you're just going to end up eating the 4 force because the reality is Brad's not doing a ton of other damage. Like, Throne Remains is not necessarily a deck that does a ton of damage by itself. It wants to take over your sites and do damage by kind of grinding you out of guys and such. And the anger, fear, aggression is obnoxious, but if you can just sort of, eat it once and move on, you'll
That
be
is one of
okay.
the reasons why Resistance actually works okay against this deck, is because in general, Brad's not occupying a battleground. He's waiting for you to occupy a battleground so he can hit you back.
Yeah, but if all he has to do is keep you off 3.
Oh, well, he's still got to you have to be on 3, or he's got to be on sorry, what am I trying to say? You have to occupy a battleground. If you occupy a battleground, you can be fought that turn that AFA pops.
Yeah, but resistance is, unless I'm forgetting something, I thought resistance was simply if you occupy 3 battlegrounds.
No, no, no. If opponent occupies 0 or you occupy 3.
Ah, okay. That if they occupy none, that's it.
Yep.
So we see Pat dropping Lord Vader, moving Palpatine over with him. Um, I don't love the Palpatine move. And he tried to weapon lev and missed, which was unfortunate. But then, so he lost the weapon lev, Twi'lek, Jabba, and Lord Vader to the AFA. And that may also be why Brad's doing the Home 1 package is Home 1 gives you a battleground. Like
Mm-hmm.
Home 1 with the fish is just I have a battleground now.
Yep.
And that's a strong setup. And yep, he's got 2 fish right now. He's got Akbar and then First Officer Thinespi. Nesby functions like Zuckuss in Mist Hunter, where you have to have 6, if he's with another Moncal, you have to have greater than 6 ability, or your total battle destiny is 0. And there we see Brad give Luke to Vader, and now he's basically trading a drain of 1 and a loss of 1. Like,
And he had Thanosby in hand, which means he can go get the most important fish. I
the
can't
one
remember the
that
guy's name.
cancels lat damage.
Right. That's the one that matters.
Virak.
Yes.
So I do think they're both very important. The Nesby is actually very, very nasty. So that 6 having to have 7 ability piloting is hard. Like, it means here's Zuckuss and Mist Hunter plus Bosk, and the Houndstooth draws nothing against you.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
the Nesby is actually very good. The lat damage is less valuable because there's not a ton of decks that are running lateral damage. And there we see Presence of the Force on the Endor docking bay, and Pat might be saying, look, I'm only going to have, we're going to be fighting over 1 or 2 battlegrounds, and I'm just going to do everything I can to make this one hurt. And we see that he did drain for 1, and Brad lost Luke's Saber from hand.
Right, because there's no reason to keep that.
And Palpatine slapped Lord Vader with a Force Lightning. So he has been summarily rebuked. And Pat's just going to draw a couple here. Brad with the signal to go get, I'm betting, another AFA. So,
Either that or he could start looking to set up his beggar draw their fire, because that's why he runs the Tatooine docking bay.
Yeah. So the beggar draw their fire will be interesting simply because I don't think Pat's going to put himself in a position where he's got little enough power that's going to be running him into overflow. Like, I think Pat's perfectly content just saying, all right, I'm going to load my Endor docking bay up right now and wait for you to do something. So that being said, it'll be interesting. And I think Brad's got some options there. Draw their fire seems like a card I don't know that I'd want against a deck that wants to be battling. Yep, he went and
got
grabbed
another AFA.
That one makes more sense, and I expect Pat will pick up at least 1 more. And there, Brad uses launching to go grab home 1.
I wonder if he's going to drop home 1 at Randelia, if he's going to wait until he finds Kessel.
So Pat drew up to 13 and then stopped, so he's going to lose 1. I'm not entirely sure if I'm Pat, and maybe he's not running Monarch. I might have actually hard drawn for a Monarch there. Oh, Brad went down to 12. For some reason, I was looking at the wrong thing. I thought Brad went up to 13 when he grabbed home 1. Never mind. So Pat drew up to 13. I'm sure he's going to lose 1 here from hand to keep himself below Grimtash range.
Yep.
So he's thinking about what to lose, though. Good Lord, he's going to have a pile of force next turn. And that's really what Brad's got to be a little scared of, is that pile of force could end up, if he's got the space cards, he could just try and overwhelm him in space. There's battle order from hand. Yeah, I think that's probably the right play.
He's got some sort of a space package.
He definitely does. Probably the Dominator, because you can retrieve it with Rendalee. There's the Anger for Aggression inserted into Pat's deck. Pat does not have a Projective Telepathy. Brad plays his own battle plan, so it forces your opponent to activate cards to pay to drain. So when you're stacking an insert, that's what you want to do, is force them to have to. And there's Hashin, who cancels that damage and adds 1 to armor, which I believe helped Brad in his top 8 match against Bill. I watched a chunk of that and I saw Bill, and Andy was doing the commentary, and I saw Bill shoot draw a 9, and miss.
Yep.
And I think Bill was like, oh, that's unfortunate. So, yep. And Brad just says, all right, I'm going to put 3 fish on the home one and let's go. So Pat
And there's AFA.
activates. There's the AFA. There's the
There's
projective. So he waited to use the projective until it popped, which I think is fine. It is a unique effect. So even if he had used it on deploy, Brad couldn't have done anything to it. Brad couldn't have tried to insert another.
Correct.
Because it's a unique card that was played that turn. But it makes sense. And so Pat only activated 7. So now he took Force Lightning with Palpatine, I think, to get himself back up to 12 cards. And he'll Force Lightning Vader. I'm hoping he doesn't forget that he can activate some more Force.
Yeah, because Anger, Fear, Aggression stopped the activation.
Yep. So, and he might not need more. I mean, like I said, he's got 17 there. Nope, he remembered. Okay. So he's leaving 4 in reserve. Looks like. Actually, he probably still could have activated 2 more. I'm wondering, are we going to see, and he pays 3 to drain. There's Luke Jedi Knight from hand and a barrier. So this is the spot if you have space to go after Brad. Because Brad can't barrier. So, but Pat's only got 18. And yeah, Pat does not have the space. He says, all right, well, put Vader's Saber on it to make it a drain of 3. Janice turns it into a drain of 4. 4 is bigger than the 2 Brad's going to be draining with at Rendley.
Yep.
So
it'll be 3 a turn because of bringing before me versus 4 a turn. So that's a losing game for Brad.
long term it is, but Brad also has some retrieval and ways he can do stuff. And what are we at for? Brad's got 35 cards down. Pat is at 12, 24, 31. So Pat's at 23, 34 cards total to Brad's 35 after he loses this one to the objective. So we're super close on cards. You know,
Yep.
Pat must have not liked what his reserve deck was looking like. Because I think if you had space, if you had like, here's Boskin the Houndstooth plus Zuckuss plus a pilot, this is the time to start, dumping that and going at him. But you have to be ready for the rebeat too. So you have to really have 2. You have to have another pilot. And there's the drain of 2 at Rendley.
Yeah, you got to have something to forfeit. Otherwise, you're going to end up underneath the line for Danisby.
Yep.
And you have to have enough to break the home one, either with Dengar and punishing one or drawing big enough.
Yeah, and that might have been it, is he might not have had enough. And there's another Anger, Fear, Aggression into Pat's reserve deck.
Those things just are brutal.
But that's Brad's 3rd. And Pat canceled the 1. So how many is Brad? I mean, Brad can't be running probably
4
more than 4
if he hasn't changed his deck.
Yeah, so we've now seen 3 of the 4, and Brad's just drawing some here. And I think he's got to be figuring out Rebel Barrier. So he's saving 1. So Pat's got to expect that that's probably a barrier. So he's going to have an answer for that. I mean, Pat can activate everything here. And Pat instead doesn't activate anything and says, all right, well, I'm going to pay 3 to drain you for 4.
I mean, that'll buy him, 3-4 turns?
And Brad's just peeling cards here. So I'm a little curious about that play from Brad, or from Pat. Like, I understand it. If you don't expect Brad to be able to do anything else, you just say, all right, well, I'll drain for more than you. But Brad's at some point going to be able to go to the Tatooine docking bay. And if Pat expects a barrier, He loses Simalu from hand. I think that's fine. I don't think there's any chance Brad's coming after Pat at Endor. Like, that's
No,
just
I
a...
think that, well, so the one thing he could have done would be to drop Simalu down with Emperor and Janus and then move Vader over.
Yeah, the question at that point becomes, does he want to pay that force for all those drains?
Right.
And I do agree with you that I think that's the play. And there, when you are beaten from hand, which if he had that, I think I really would have liked that play, is, yeah, I'll pay 3 for Sim. There might have even been 4 for Sim. And then I'll transit Vader to Tatooine and say, now I'm going to be draining for 5 a turn.
Right. And then when they come down for the counterbeat, you know,
Yeah.
if you've got a really good hand, you've got a circle in there along with the You Are Beaten, and you're really
Yeah.
good to go.
I mean, the You Are Beaten is such a great card in this matchup for anything else. And there...
So he's playing the old version where it's Coruscant, which is why he had no problem going to Rendili early.
I mean,
So,
honestly, he could have just gone to Rendley and called it a day. So here's why I hate Coruscant in this format, and I've said it many times in many different things to every teammate who's ever asked me. If Pat is running the bounty hunter ships, which I expect he is, Coruscant is just asking for a beatdown. Because Coruscant says, Force drain +1 here. If rebels control this system, Imperial starships are deploy -2. The dark side text says your starships and pilots deploy -2 here.
mm-hmm.
So if you're running bounty hunter ships, you're like, here's 6 for Zuckuss, here's 4 for Zuckuss, here's 6 for Bosk, here's 3 for Dengar. Eat it. And there's not much your opponent can do. So now we didn't see Pat go grab the Force Lightning and Janus it down to where he'd knowed he would be able to go, okay, here's a 5. I can battle into this with a 5. But he's going to have to do something because now the drains are the same. Like, you can't just let that Coruscant drain go because now they're both drains of 4.
Right.
And bring him before me hits him for an extra 1.
And at some point, AFA is going to pop from that drain.
Yeah. Like, it's... But Pat doesn't have the force to stop the AFA. Like, he doesn't have a force to stop barrier, which is really going to be the killer here.
And he hasn't picked up any cards, so he doesn't have blaster controls in his
Unless
hand
he's
as
had
a
it
new
the whole
thing.
time and is just waiting on it to let Brad sit on barrier, which would be a smart play, and is definitely a play Pat is smart enough and crafty enough to make.
It would be, but at that point, we're talking about out of his 7 cards, he's got the 3 bounty hunter ships and blaster controls.
And someone to throw on Zuckuss as a pilot to keep you alive through Hashin.
Right.
Because Hashin still forfeits for 5. I mean, Hashin forfeits for 5. Akbar forfeits for 7. The thing is, the Nesby and Hashin work just fine together.
Yep.
So that's going to be something, and Brad, I think, Pat is definitely going through and trying to figure that out. So Pat activated, there's the AFA, and Pat with another projective to cancel it. All right. So
did he draw any cards last turn? I didn't think he drew. If he had that in his hand, why didn't he activate and draw last turn?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure why he's made the choice. Some of the play lines he's made, I'm not necessarily in full agreement with.
It just seems like kind of a back foot type of a situation for him to end up in, because he basically just tanked a turn.
So there went Blount, Anakin's lightsaber, sorry about the mess, and order to engage. So, and maybe Pat has the...
Oh.
And Executor. Okay.
Do we have an Ozzel or somebody to toss onto that? Because right now,
any pilot
Destiny
is 0. Yeah. Well, I mean, any pilot costs him -2 now, though. Because he no longer controls Coruscant. So there went the Brad played the signal, I think, to try and track that 5 in part. And Pat grabbed it. And Brad went and got Beggar, which is
Right, he's
fine.
going to make sure he can't get barriered if he's got something else, I guess.
I mean, the thing is, he can't. I don't think Pat's worried about a barrier.
Right?
I don't think Pat is planning to barrier in there. Pat
He
had
probably just
Search and
grabbed the beggar
Destroy.
just because.
Yeah, like the Beggar might have more been he might just be planning to throw the Beggar because there's nothing he can throw into space to do much more than just cost Brad Dengar. But right
Well,
now, Brad still doesn't draw a Battle Destiny.
yeah, I think I'd have probably put them both at Rendili and just eaten the drain this turn because
So
right now he's not drawing Destiny and
I don't
he's
think he could
gonna.
afford to put them both at Rendili. I think I probably would have just thrown Dengar at Rendili and said, I don't think you're doing this. And now I can drain for free and force you to move to me. So there's
Yeah,
Red Squadron Wedge on home one. I assume we'll see another Red Squadron pilot. I'm not even sure why because there's Tycho.
Tycho.
So there's another Red Squadron pilot. Again, Pat's not drawing Destiny there anyways.
Nope.
So I don't like the line Pat took there. I don't like it in any way, shape, or form. And there, the draw of their fire goes through. Brad retrieves a card. Pat loses a card. Um, Pat loses circle from use pile. All right, that's fine. Like, again, I'm
Yeah,
just not
he
sure.
had 24, so he had enough to deploy the two.
Yeah,
Uh,
but he paid 3 to drain. So there's the 2 for Battle Destiny. So he's going to win the battle by 7, or by, excuse me, 6. And Dengar and Punishing 1 forfeits for 5. There's a 1, which is a 0, and doesn't even matter. Yeah, he cancels it. It was going to be a 0 anyways. So, yep,
why did
there
we
goes
toss?
Dengar.
Why did we toss Zuckus out of use though?
Because he was down 1 power.
Oh, oh, okay.
I think if I'm Pat, what I'm doing this turn is probably activating almost all of it.
Activate all of it but one.
I'm not
Or
even
no,
sure I'd leave one.
activate all of it.
Well, you can
You use
activate all
one to move
15
the
that you can.
executor.
Yeah, so now you're going to drain for 4. I think you move the executor, and I do think you move Vader as Brad's peeling cards, couple cards from hand, the couple of Twixes from hand. There
Yeah,
goes
he's
the
only
Grim
got 10
Tash from
cards
hand.
left. Vader should be both of those sites should be pretty safe on their own at this point, and
Yeah,
you're definitely just trying to push through as much damage as you can possibly get.
and I think what you're doing now is you move, and Brad loses the last Anger, Fear, Aggression from hand. That's an interesting choice to lose. Because, yeah, I think
Yep.
at this point you just will move the Executor. I might throw a pilot or 2 on it if you've got one just in case. Like, if you have a pilot, put a pilot on there just in case Brad's got some sort of secondary space. He might not have had a pilot. So there the Executor moves to Rendili. And Pat draws. Pat, you needed to move to Tatooine. Move Vader to Tatooine and force, or move Palpatine and Janice to Tatooine. Like, I don't care who, but move to Tatooine and force Brad to do something. That being said, the Executor forcing that damage makes Brad move away. Brad, again, does not want to turn this into a race because he's now tied at best.
Right.
And Brad's got 16 cards total to Pat's 21.
Now
Which
that's the
is
one concern I've got is that with the amount of force he saved, it does help with the beggar. So
yeah, but Brad's still, and I think Pat is. I love Pat. Pat is an awesome teammate and a good friend. Pat is a little too cautious sometimes in this format, in this meta. Like, the not splitting the guys up, I think, is a mistake.
well, so
Especially because you could still force lightning someone.
He's an open player, or originally an open player, as I recall from talking to Joe. So he
Correct,
might
he
be
is.
thinking that, the Lone Vader over there just does not have the same power level as it does in retro.
Uh, Brad plays like this in open too, though.
Oh,
Brad is just a little bit of a cautious player, and now Brad's going to use more of the beggar force. I think he was thinking of just using one. He's instead going to use the rest of the force. And there's Obi because circle's done. I mean, at this point, if I'm Pat, I'm Janising a card simply to. All right, so he barriered Obi. The push on us to grab barrier is fine, but I think Pat's perfectly happy with that. I doubt he's
yep.
was planning to play another barrier this game, and he effectively caused a drain of one there.
Well, and that's the other thing. If he had the barrier in his hand, then definitely he should have moved Lord Vader over, because from that point he could have then attacked Obi on his turn.
Yeah, and there, Brad throwing Han with gun. So if Pat's running two circles, this could get interesting quick. So, and I think Brad's got to decide if he wants to move in front of the executor or not. Like he'd give up, he'd go from a drain of 4 to a drain of 2, which is bad.
Yep.
Like right now he put down some cards, so he's back to, if he leaves it in play, it's drains of 5 going both ways. But again, Pat's a few cards ahead in total force, and I think Brad does the math and says, all right, I got to move. And I think Pat's fine with that.
Oh yeah, Pat's like, okay,
Like,
so you can eat
that's
4.
great. Now it's, I'm going to drain for 4. You're going to drain for 2. Like, that's a great trade as far as Pat's concerned. So Pat activates all but 2. Um, Looking to see what those 2 are. I'm not sure what his thought process is. I'm not sure what he's thinking of deploying. He lost Mara's Saber already. There's not much I'd be
Iggy,
comfortable throwing into Obi and Han without that. Like,
Iggy, IG-88 with gun.
yeah, IG-88 with gun. If you can,
If you got the Destiny, you snag Han
yeah, you snag
and then
Han
kill
and then
Obi.
you cost him Obi and you just send Han to used. You just get
Yep.
him off the table, cost him Obi to Battle Destiny, and call it a day. That would be great if
That
Pat's got it.
that would be all I can think of for 2 Destiny.
Yeah, that would be in Pat's. So Pat looked for, and he used the throne room text because that's the only thing he could do that wouldn't have accidentally grabbed him a card. If he had Force Lightning in there, he would have grabbed it with Palpatine and then been sad. So, but he's still, I mean, that drain of 4 is going to be nasty. And I mean, Brad already lost his sorry about the mess. I doubt he's running more than one. Like, you don't want to move Vader in front of Han and Obi without like a circle.
No, but the nice thing with IG-88 is that even if he gets barriered, it just means he's
He
sitting
can't be
there waiting
battled.
for next turn. Right.
Yeah, IG-88's great. Like, I don't know that I'd want to move Vader in front now because of the draw their fire.
Right.
Like that, and that would actually be an even better reason to put IG. If you've got IG, like that's a huge play if the Destiny are good enough to hit Han. You have to know you're going to hit Han, or it becomes a real bad play.
Right. Yes. If you
So
if you whiff on Han, it's all bad.
yeah, but he chooses not to activate anymore. So we see Melos, Lando, and Falcons. We did have another ship, Han with gun and honor from reserve. So Brad's down to 6 cards in reserve. That is it's starting to get close to bad for him to be able to do much. So, and I could actually, well, I don't know that I want to give up the extra +1 to the drain with Janice, but I could even see potentially moving Janice with Vader just to give you some forfeit fodder and backup, because Lord Vader is hard to hit.
He is, but if he gets hit at this point, I don't know that there's going to be another Vader hitting the table to grab Luke up again.
Oh, there's not. Pat's already lost like 3 other Vaders. Pat is out of Vaders, and that would be the only reason not to move Vader. So, and that's kind of the question. The other thing Pat could consider doing is move Janice and Palpy to the 2 non-battleground docking bays. Move them to Hoth and the home 1 because it is free from Endor. And just start adding more to drains.
I like that play a lot.
Like, if you don't have anything else, what you're going to do here is, all right, I'll docking bay transit Janice to Hoth. I'll send Palpy to home 1. I will run away with the Executor. And now you're going to drain for 3, and I'm going to threaten drains of 5. And it's drains of 5 you have to do something about. But again, Brad's got 6 cards down.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of force left, so he's got a Leia left at this point.
And Leia,
because we've already seen Malos come off.
And Leia, there's Blaster controls, which is cute, but I don't know what he's trying to do with it now.
IG-88.
And
I'm
First
telling
Strike.
you. Oh no, but he already picked 1 card up.
Yeah, like honestly, at that point, I think I'm still fine with that. Okay.
Mara. Oh, so he's going to battle in with Mara.
I'm actually okay with that because you're going to get 2. You're going to get the double ping from First Strike and draw their fire, and you might
clear one of them.
You're still going to be down a couple cards, though, is my concern.
Oh, yeah, but so here's the problem, though, is that now
and
the
if you do that,
Executor
you
can't
can't
move
move
away.
the Executor. Yeah, I'm...
So I think that might have been good before he Janissed.
Oh, he forgot Goo. That would be the...
Okay.
And he's asking for a revert because he forgot Goo. That is one of those things that where...
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable revert to ask.
Yep.
But with GEMP, nobody has to say yes to that.
So, and I think that was a gentlemanly play by Brad. And we see Tom saying that Brad...
There's Iggy.
Didn't draw into on the edge. It's the card in his force pile. All right, so I like Iggy. In that case, I think Pat, without knowing what those destiny were, but again, he's retrieving 2 here, causing 2 force loss. Again, you're even more likely to lose force on this battle now, though.
Yeah, so because we can't snag Han and then draw destiny. So
he's sitting on a Gick. And there's Fallen Portal, which honestly, I think if you're Pat,
that's
you're totally
great
fine.
for Pat.
Like,
yeah,
please portal me. Oh no. Like, so Brad's down to 5 cards down and 1 in hand after using that portal. Like, I'm wondering if Pat is sitting on a Gick. Because this play is really bad unless you have a Gick. So here's IG swinging, or Obi-Wan swinging at IG. And he hits him.
So I'm hoping that destiny that he's got there is the 5.
For who? Brad?
Yeah, for... Yeah.
I mean, there's no good destiny for Pat. Like, even if it's a 5, so it's a 6. All right.
It is a second circle even.
But you're still potentially losing some force here.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Like, yeah, you're down 4 still. Like, I don't like that play.
Oh, if he knew that was a 6, why didn't he shoot Obi?
I'm wondering if he didn't know it was a 6.
He had to have known it was a 6 because he looked at the 2 cards.
Oh, yeah, he had to know it was a 6. You're right. You shoot Obi
so
there.
You shoot Obi, and you just
say,
let
great.
Han...
And instead, he peels some cards. I don't like that at all.
No, because you shoot Obi at that point.
Away,
Han's not even getting destiny.
Yeah, like, then you just say okay and tell Han to do something. Yeah, right. That was a huge mistake. Because you're right, he did know that was a 6. That was a massive mistake by Pat. And there, Pat loses the Mara from hand. He doesn't spread to the docking bays, which I think is a mistake.
Yeah, because that would have closed the game out.
Mean, all Brad could do would be to throw Leia at a non... I mean, if Brad's 1 card in hand is Leia, that would be what he could do. So, because Pat's got 7 cards now down. Pat's got 7 force total. Brad's got 7 force total. I mean, Brad can move. I guess Brad can move home 1 and follow. And he'll get. I mean,
Well,
Pat's gonna. If nothing else changes, Pat wins this game by like 2 force. Actually, I think 1.
yeah, but it sucks because he should be winning by
Yeah, he
about what
should
he
be
had in his
winning.
pile last turn, like right or this turn.
Yeah, he should be winning by a few more than that because yeah, that would have been you
Because
shoot.
then he'd have battled into Han again, or Han would have run,
Yeah,
and then he wouldn't be able to drain again next
Han would have
turn.
had to run, and Han would have had to run to a non-battleground, and
Where you've
then
already got your guys.
yeah. Well, and you don't even need to at that point. I don't think you even need to move your guys. I think the moving the guys would have been good, but I think that's a. All right, so yep, Brad's down to 3 cards total. I mean, you don't even need to do anything. Just move Executor over.
uh,
There's no upside to doing anything. You don't leave Executor there because then you're gonna
oh no,
give him
you
back
could
to.
you could battle into him to get the 2 retrieval.
Yeah, but then you've got to pay. Then you're eating drains. You're still eating a drain of 5, and then you have to pay for your drain
Yep,
next turn.
I was
Which
just
I
doing the math to double
think
check
you
that.
run out of fort. I don't
I
think you
think you
have
do
enough
too.
then.
No, I don't think you do either.
So
So you just move
yeah,
Executor, eat the drain, and then close it
I
out
think
next
what
turn.
he's deciding is, do I move Executor and then move Vader and Janice, and or just Vader, and that's a terrible play.
No, you just move
Like,
Executor and you're done.
so what I would have done, I think he lost it though.
Oh, he did
Brad,
battle it.
Pat, what are you? So there, he's retrieving 2, and he costs Brad, or yeah, he cost Brad 2 force. So, because he lost the circle. Because the other thing I was thinking is he could have gone for the, I'll move Vader over, I'll circle Obi, and now you can't pay to drain.
Well, so the other
So
thing I
he
was
loses
thinking of
Executor.
is because Brad has battle order out, him being down to only 1 force doesn't mean that, or moving Vader over doesn't actually stop him from
Yeah.
battling into you.
The only reason you move Vader over is if you have the circle.
Right.
That's the only reason to move Vader over. And there we see.
So he had just enough.
And I think at this point, Brad probably just draws his 1.
Yep.
Because there's no reason to give him the extra card. So Pat's going to win this by 3. Okay, he's not going to. Should have been more than 3, but. So, Pat. Pat by 3. We have 32 to 33 in lost. So it does not get much closer than that, folks. But that also means it's
Anybody's game for the second one.
This second game is. So got that up there. Differential does matter, Tom, because this is match play. So this is a. Oh, I jumped out of here before we saw the game, and I can't get back into it. So I believe they're going to start again here in a couple minutes. I know the
Yep.
plan was to play both games today.
Brad just
Yeah.
asked if they're ready to switch sides.
Okay. And yeah, Tom, differential matters because it's match play. So in any other format, yeah, differential is no longer matters. This is match play, and that's honestly, Pat gave up some differential he could have absolutely gotten. And it might have been with the Mara mistake.
He was just flustered at that point.
He was a little bit flustered. Yeah, you shoot Obi with the 6 and you go, fine, I cost you 2, you can't attack me, and go nuts. So here's game 2. Brad on Realty Operations versus Pat on Profit Speeders. Um,
I would
again,
assume it's speeders. We haven't seen.
it is.
Okay.
Again, Brad's a teammate. Brad's someone we test with. My dog is apparently frustrated that my daughter came home from spending the weekend with her boyfriend. River, hush. So Brad, pretty standard ROPS start. Oppressive enforcement, Imperial Arrest Order mobilization points. Pat with, I think it'll be staging areas, insurrection, and do or do not. All right.
Do or do not's interesting because ROPS doesn't typically run a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that might be one of those where probably the other alternate start would be your insight to grab honor, and you're not going to need honor against ROPS.
Is he not running wise advice and grabbers?
He is not running wise advice and grabbers. He and I talked about this because we did some play testing with it, and I was like, why not wise advice? He goes, well, that wasn't in the deck. Oh, well, then that's a valid reason not to start it. So he's just running do or do not. So I have definitely seen some ROPS running a little bit of sense, and or alter.
Yeah, it's just not
It's
as common.
not a ton of it, and you're not going to see a lot of it.
One thing ROPS does run though is inserts. Sometimes you will sometimes see a single insert with ROPS,
and that would be real obnoxious to Pat if it gets dropped. But I don't think usually when you see that it's like the trooper variant, and I don't think that's what Brad's running.
I would assume Brad is running the ATSTs.
Yeah, Brad runs just the basic standard ROPS and just says, I'm going to play it better than you. Pat activating 7, using insurrection to go get a docking bay. I expect we'll just see a speeder at a docking bay to bump up his activation and wait.
Yeah, speeders are really obnoxious for ROPS to deal with.
Yeah, they tend to just drop a lot of power, and I know Pat was kind of hoping this would be ROPS. I know in our team's chat, he basically said, I just hope he doesn't play Hunt Down because we played that match 3 or 4 times the other day, and Hunt Down was firmly in control.
Oh yeah, because at that point you drop Vader down at the audience chamber and flip, and then the speeders just eat visage damage all day.
Yeah, it's very hard to get Vader off the table, and it's very hard to handle that damage. So Brad's activating a decent amount with 9, and again, ROPS is relatively cheap. The ATST version costs a little bit more, but with the ATSTs, you're reacting all over the place, and you're fine with... Oh, he misses a docking bay pull using a rest order, so he grabs the desert with RELOPS. There's the Dagobah Cave. The missing the docking bay pull hurts a little bit. And there's our net at the Executor docking bay. Fairly safe play. I mean, the only guy Pat could theoretically go at him with would be Bausch. And if you go at him with Bausch, then you can't free Han. Or are unlikely to be able to free Han, so I think our net's probably fairly safe there, and Brad just wants to bump up his activation. Now, if you're Pat, do you drop a pile of speeders on Raltier right away and just force his hand a little bit?
I think so, because the best way to fight ROPS is to keep them from flipping.
Yeah, to make
the problem
them
is
work to flip.
Is that if he doesn't have either income or maneuvering flaps, that I don't know that he's really going to do much for stopping them.
Yeah, I mean, it's you drop a pile at one site, so Brad has to deploy to that site and then move away, and you threaten the barrier.
Right.
And if you have the barrier, then Brad suddenly has to change how he does everything else around it. And we see Pat deploys the Echo Docking Bay from hand. This is a pretty I mean, all of this is fairly standard speeder play. If you've played with or against speeders in this format, like, he's going to want to put Incom Engineering Corp at the Echo Docking Bay, which makes his speeders all power +1, and permanent pilots are ability 2 instead of 1, which adds up quick. He's also going to want to get maneuvering flaps in play, but he's got to worry about Monarch because Brad is absolutely running a Monarch.
Yes.
You know.
Well, and that's the other reason that you've got to think about what you're doing before the flip versus after the flip, because once he flips, he's going to be able to go get that Monarch as soon as
Yeah.
you draw up with something tasty.
And that's you have to be ready for that Monarch. And you do have a blend of speeders. There's Rebel Snow Speeders, there's regular Snow Speeders, and there's Sand Speeders. So in theory, a Monarch loss doesn't destroy your hand. Like, you might get some speeders, but hopefully you're smart about what you're drawing and keeping, so you're limiting the duplicates as much as possible. But it's not always possible. Like, there are absolutely spots where you're just going to eat those duplicates, and if Brad times that Monarch right, it'll be rough. So
Well,
Pat's tanking a little bit here. Pat throws his own Spaceport Docking Bay at routes here from hand. I would have liked to see that before. I'd have liked to see that. I'd like to see him wait on that until Brad put his Spaceport Docking Bay down.
Yep.
Because then you get him for the plus to activation, or the plus to deploy his guys there, which is good. Like, you know, Brad's running the Spaceport Docking Bay, and Pat, so right now Pat's got 3 baby snow speeders sitting there he's a total power of 6. He does not draw Battle Destiny, and he just draws up to 12 and leaves 7 force. Now, he's probably got barriers. He's probably got Fallen Portal.
The problem is that
Brad's
without
got to be a
incom or
little
maneuvering
careful.
flaps, yeah.
Like, and here Brad says, all right, I got Tempest Scout, or Tempest 1. There's Mara Jade at the Forest. Colonel David John. I mean, Brad's going for the flip. And an
ATST
ATST
pilot.
pilot. So Brad's flipping here, but short of a battle order in hand, he's not actually hurting. There's Search and Destroy, which actually is going to
No, and he's probably going to move
annoy Pat
Arnett
far more.
over, either Arnett or the ATST pilot over to pilot Tempest 1.
And make Arnett the pilot. I would imagine he moves Arnett over. There's no point now in leaving Arnett at the Executor Docking Bay. Yeah. So he moves Arnett over, makes Arnett the pilot. That's fine. That Search and Destroy is going to add up real quick for Pat. The one upside, Pat did not lose and he moves the Tempest away. I think in fear of Pat just dropping.
Right, a bigger beatdown, and it's not like there's a drain there at this point.
So now the one upside of the Search and Destroy is Brad's not actually, like, Brad's fine with losing to Search for a few turns, because at some point he's just going to go, here's Bausch, here's someone who loves you to free Han. I'll retrieve 10, and now I cover Search and Destroy. And you've got to do something against that, which is fine. Like, Brad's perfectly fine with that as a choice.
I mean, the speeders really are trying to win the game with a game-ending beatdown. They're trying to throw 30, 40 power into somebody and just close the game out.
Or sit on order to engage and sit in front of you. So, and that's what Pat's got to decide what he's doing here. I'm just not sure what his plan is. He can't drain. I mean, he can, but it's a drain of 0. And there's a Tunnel Vision, which I think could be a huge card. Like, Pat's
he's either going to get maneuvering flaps or income.
And Brad grabs it.
He's probably grabbing it because he doesn't want it picked back up with Prophet.
Yeah, but by the time Pat retrieves it, gets it back around, gets it back into
Yeah.
hand. Like, I'm not sure I would have grabbed tunnel vision there. But Brad may also be running 3 grabbers
Right.
and just says, look, I'm going to grab a bunch of things, and there's only so many interrupts you're going to play. Like, what other interrupt are you probably going to play? Barrier? Okay, I'll grab that.
Right. Barrier if he's not running blaster controls, maybe the signal
Yeah,
out of
like
commission if
those.
there's an out of commission in there. But I mean, with speeders, it's not like there's a lot of interrupts that you're really running off of. You're running
Yeah.
off those effects.
So I don't hate the grab, but at the same time, where Brad needs to win and still, needs to win by, 3 at least. Losing a card that for a at best very marginal benefit, because playing that card is losing it. It costs you a card from life. Hurts a little bit, but because you weren't canceling, like if he was canceling it, I'd love the grab a whole lot more. Without canceling it, like Pat still went to get or whatever he wanted. There's Lando in Falcon.
Oh.
That's really good. That's
And
got the
there's the
potential to
flaps.
be very good. So the flaps is nice. Um, the
Well,
thing
so
with
the flaps make a big deal right this second, though, because what's going to happen is Lando's going to go up to routes here,
and he's going to
and
flip him
then
back.
for you to get in front of those speeders means that next turn you're going to be eating a ton of power, and you
Yep.
won't have gotten the option to go fetch the card that you need to make a difference on that.
And Brad does only have 6 cards in hand.
Right.
Like Brad kind of blew his wad getting himself flipped, which I do think 100% was the right play for Brad. Like Brad needs to flip and going aggressive to flip. And there, Pat throws a 4th snow speeder down just to say, if you come battle me, I'm at least drawing Battle Destiny. Like I still think he needs to, and Hark Seth. Oh,
So that stops Search and Destroy, and then also cancels the drain next door at the desert.
yep, that was huge. Pat
Well, and really, what he
is in a
might do
real
at this
good
point
place.
is, depending on what all he's got in hand, is he wants to get Hark over to the swamp.
No, you're totally fine with Hark there right now.
Oh, I'm saying long term because then you're canceling out 3 drains.
Then the swamp you're canceling 2 because at that point Brad moves his guys to the docking bay. Like you want to get to the swamp. In theory, you want to get to the swamp long term, but you have to give up the flaps for a turn to do it, which you're not really going to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I'm Pat, I'm super okay with Brad draining me for 2.
Right.
Like I'm very okay with just fine. You can get your 2 drains of 1, go nuts. Like I'll cancel the 1. I'm not going to worry about the others.
So I'm not seeing a pilot come down on the Falcon, and it doesn't draw Destiny on its own. So the one scary thing there for Pat is that if he goes up to
He's
routes here,
got to
he's
have barrier of
gambling.
some sort. And he throws Landing Claw on the Falcon. So if he's got a barrier and Brad has a capital, he can just follow him.
Right.
And if he follows him like to Kashyyyk, he can pop the Landing Claw during control phase, cause a ping with profit, and then pop back on. That's
A beautiful
dirty.
thing.
That is dirty, and I love it. I'm, but again, Brad's got 6 cards in hand right now to try and do something in space. And all Pat needs to do is barrier something. There's no way Brad has enough space.
Oh.
And Lost in the Wilderness. Yep, he got Mara. That's fine. That's obnoxious.
It's not the end of the world, but it just is. It's throwing Brad a little bit further behind the power curve
Yeah,
here.
it's Brad now needs to deploy multiple cards to get himself flipped back, which is not easy. And Pat loses a snow speeder to the Colonel David John drain. There's the drain of 1 at the desert, which Hark will, undoubtedly cancel. Brad might just be picking up here.
He can fetch a non-unique from his reserve deck with his objective, but he can't really afford this.
And there's Janice in front of Luke.
Luke,
Like, are you gonna just?
you're not flipped, so you're not guaranteed to pop him.
Yeah, like that's and there's his own spaceport docking bay from hand to convert Pat's. That was what I was talking about, where I wouldn't have minded Pat holding his, but I didn't mind the way he did that. And Brad just draws some. Just Janice there frightens me a little bit.
Right? I don't really know what's going on with that.
I guess
Because,
it stopped, so that the reason for Janice is it stops Pat from just snap freeing Han.
but I don't think he's going to.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was. Honestly, I'm not. And there went the signal from Pat, and Brad grabs that as well.
Like with the speeders, I don't think you're in any hurry to free Han.
Yeah, you free Han when you have 10 forced, when you have 10 lost cards. Like until you have 10 lost cards, you don't care about freeing Han. Like I'm not sure I loved Pat just playing Luke there.
Right?
Like your best case scenario would be free Han, drain for one, ping for one, because you're not getting a ping with Lando until he's at a battleground.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was I understand what he's doing. I just don't love the play.
Well, and the thing is that the differential last game was close enough that nobody needs to rush this game.
Yeah, the
Like
differential
you
was
don't
3.
you don't need to be in a hurry because really this game is going to decide. Like a differential of 3, you might as well have not even had a differential. Whoever
Yeah,
wins this game, unless it is another ridiculously close game, is going to win the set.
agreed. This is a win this game, win the match. And Pat drains for 1 and 1. And we see Tempest Scout 5 from reserve and Lieutenant Cabell from reserve. Tom, what we'd see for Rob Space is I expect we'll see Bosk in the Tooth, Dengar in Punishing One, Zuckuss in Mist Hunter, a Dreadnought, and maybe the Emperor's Shuttle, and
So,
maybe Boba and Ship.
yeah,
Like there are
some flavors will
definitely
run an
spares.
executor, but I think that Brad
I don't
runs
think
Emperor
Brad's running the
Shuttle.
Executor.
I
Emperor's
think Brad
Shuttle's
is running
solid.
the shuttle, and then you'll see like Dengar and Punishing One, Zuckuss and Mist Hunter.
Yeah.
And for Lando, the scariest ones are going to be the shuttle or Zuckuss and Mist Hunter.
I
Zuckuss
mean,
and Mist Hunter is really the worst case scenario for Lando.
yeah, because it's possible Pat's sitting on a punch it. Like if you just randomly build this and throw in punch it and say okay. So Pat does activate the flaps, which is fine. I mean that's a pretty standard at this point.
Yep, he's going to go
And
try and pop
okay,
David
so is
John.
he gonna just try and beat the tar out of the Colonel there?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah, I mean
You're
that's
not flipped. I mean, so ROPS flipped when you're drawing like Destiny 6 to 9 on most things is kind of rough for speeders because those
yeah,
little Rebel speeders, you're still taking 2 or 3 of them out of turn. But
yeah.
pre flip, all day long.
And there's Bausch.
That's interesting.
I think he's gonna break her cover.
Right.
And the barrier on Bausch is a problem. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
because
not a
I.
problem in the sense of it's going to block this drain, but Pat doesn't have enough ability against Colonel David John.
But
And
you're still 14 power. You're going to clear him.
yeah, like I might still battle.
I think I would.
You know, you're still 14 power, but now you're going to be down a few more when you lose a guy because you're going to lose something coming back. And we see first he battles at the audience chamber. And there's the
Nice.
projective telepathy, which is strong. And I think you let that go. Like, I think Pat just has to say okay.
Oh, he didn't let it go.
All right, so
And he didn't break
he's
Bush's cover.
yeah, that was a not breaking her cover was a mistake. Like even if she can't battle, you break her cover so you're drawing Battle Destiny next time. Because once you kill Colonel John, you don't care. So he does, however, clear Janice and not have to lose Luke. That was very good for Pat.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is going to lose one to the drain at the forest, and he might be saying, okay, I'm going to He might be deciding to lose a speeder. Now, he does not save a force to barrier himself at Reltier.
which is a very scary
If
idea.
Brad has space, this might go poorly. And this is where,
Unless he's sitting on a punch hit, like you said. And I think
yeah,
punch hit with Lando and Millennium Falcon being your only space package, or because I would assume that it's like Lando or maybe Gold Leader and Gold One, since you're running the
yeah.
landing claw. Punch it could be a
And
really
there,
interesting move there.
Pat loses order to engage from hand. I don't like that. Brad throws Palpatine down at the forest, so he is extra immune to attrition there. That also tells me I don't think Brad had space.
Right? I would agree with that.
Like, because otherwise I think you throw the world at Lando. There's Endicott at the Executor docking bay. Endicott deploys free to any docking bay or launch bay.
Is
He
he running
does.
the Executor as a space package? I don't know why else he would need the extra force at the docking bay at this point.
I have no idea. Unless, I don't know why you would put him. He deploys -2 to any docking bay. Yeah, I don't know why you're putting him there. Like, I get if you're running Executor, I guess. Like,
I don't know why else he would need that extra
and
two
the
force.
overseeing it personally on Palpatine is interesting. Right now, it turns the forest or the desert into a drain of 2 that Harksef cancels. And that's it.
Yep.
Colonel David John is not doing anything because of Bausch either way. Oh, there was Vader in front of Luke. I missed that play. Looking at other stuff. So Vader's swinging at Luke. I expect he'll hit. You know, the Destiny in ROPS tends to be very good. Yep, there's a 3 and a 5. So Luke is hit and forfeit 0.
But again, that's no real loss for Pat.
Yeah, I mean, Pat will be perfectly fine taking this trade. You know, the thing is, Pat does only have 5 cards in hand. So does he have more to come back with? Because he is going to lose 5 here. Like, he'll lose 5 and Luke. But that's 5 he's going to retrieve if he's got another Luke in hand. And it looks like he's losing the 5 first and then losing Luke. So he wants to
make sure he retrieves Luke.
Make sure he gets Luke back at or he's doing something like the and there's the altar on the flaps.
Maneuvering flaps.
So he gets it, but it's going to cost Brad the altar and 2 force, which hurts a little bit. I mean, now he can battle him with Colonel David John if he wants to, but I don't see a lot of point.
I think that I might have done that in the other order and buried maneuvering flaps down at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine even battling now with John. Brad said he clicked too fast. Yeah, I think he probably meant he might be wanting to battle with Colonel David John and then just expecting not to take overflow. Like at that point, once the flaps are gone, you go, okay, well, I'll battle with Colonel David John and not take overflow. But Bausch there says, even if you cost him a speeder or 2, Pat just says, okay.
Well, that's why I'd have altered the maneuvering flaps first, because if you cost a speeder or 2 there, then you might have buried maneuvering flaps down far enough that it doesn't get picked back up on the retrieval. And he's
but
probably got a
no
second
way
flap.
Pat is not. Yeah, as I say, Pat is absolutely playing 2 flaps, but Pat's doing all this without incom ever hitting table. And that 1 for Battle Destiny means Brad's going to lose 2 force to this battle.
Ouch.
That is, and he loses Bosk in the Tooth. That's a little bit of a surprise. Like, I guess maybe he is.
Well, because Bosk can get landing clawed.
Yeah. But you almost just say, I'm not going to throw Bosk at Reltier and move him to Kashyyyk.
No, throw it at Kashyyyk.
Yeah, but you move Lando over and claw him and say, fine.
I think the other thing
at that point, then you just do all right, I'll free Han, I'll ping. So Pat activates everything. Drains for 1 at the docking bay, and we see a barrier. Drains for 1 at Raltier.
The other problem here is that likely these are all the Raltier sites that Brad is running. So
Oh, very likely.
unless he can clean the speeders off of one of these sites,
And I don't think
he's
he
never
can.
going to flip. Right.
And there's Master Luke again. So now I think we'll see the free. Like, now you need to
So
free Han.
Pat is in a great spot for this
Pat
game.
is in a spectacular spot. And, yep. So here I'm going to retrieve 10, which is just brutal. Pat's running 2 Lost in the Wilderness. That's spicy. And he breaks Bausch's cover, which does 2 things. One means he can draw Battle Destiny at the jungle if need be. Or, excuse me, the, jungle. But much more importantly, it's another ping with profit.
Yep.
And Brad's only got 5 cards in hand. Like, if Brad's thinking about coming after him, what are you coming after him with?
Well, and I think at this point you move
And
Lando over to
there's
Kashyyyk.
Order to Engage, which Brad immediately points mans, and Pat's totally okay with that. He got back
Yep.
the other Order to Engage. I don't know that I move Lando back. I don't know
think
that I
so?
move Lando. So if Brad is sitting on Executor, if that's his play, is I'm going to drop Executor at Raltier, then you can either claw it, or then you can move to Kashyyyk, and you're not scared of the Executor. Given my options, I would rather have Executor locked at Raltier than have it at Kashyyyk.
That's true.
Because if it goes to Raltier, it's never leaving.
Right.
That's what that hyperspeed of 2 means, is it means you are stuck. And if Pat's got a barrier, which I gotta imagine he drew into 1 barrier and then stopped, so it couldn't be monarched. We see Adrenaline 1 at the forest, and Pat, it could be worse, is the 1.
And that's
That's
something that he's
Brad
going
would
to
have
be
liked to grab.
regretting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where grabbing the tunnel vision is like, yeah, it could be worse, would be way more important. There's the drain of 2 that gets Hark Seft. I mean, Brad's only got 4 cards in hand. What are you doing here? Oh, we formed the search party of 2.
He cannot catch a break here.
Fails. I mean, I've played Brad a bunch. Brad is, not necessarily, I won't say he's not friendly, but he's not necessarily the most talkative guy. I'm not laughing at Brad there. I'm laughing at the absurdity of the situation. Like, that could not, and Brad's just straight drawing.
Right. No, I mean,
nothing is going Brad's way here. He's got to find something.
we
And
have
Pat,
all sat on those games where Ozzel shows up where he's not wanted.
yeah, like, and, Brad's drawing up, but now Brad's into the point where he can't deploy anything in front of Pat. Like, he's only got 8 cards down. Yeah, he's not going to, he's going to get drained for 1, 2, 3, 4, and ping of 2. So, like, it's not, Pat's not doing a ton of force loss necessarily.
But he's got all day to do it. I mean, he's
but
ahead.
He's doing enough.
Right.
And there went Coruscant from hand, which is one card you see in a lot of things because Special Edition Coruscant definitely can wreck ROPS when you get it going. There's Palpatine from hand to the drain at Raltier. Oh yeah, he can't drain at the jungle. Forgot. So it's 5 farce. There's You Cannot Hide Forever from hand. And Profit for 2. And if you're Pat at this point, I think you just go, you drop Incom. You drop a speeder to protect Incom, although Mara's already stuck, so there's probably not too many more.
There went the Blaster controls, so.
Yeah, he may not have had it when he needed. He may not have had it and didn't want to just walk into the barrier. But, like, if he had space, I think you almost have to walk into the barrier. Force him to do something. But, yeah, Pat is...
Yeah, I mean, the game is
And
toast.
Brad just conceded. Pat was firmly in control there. Congratulations to Pat Johnson. Going to the championship of the Retro GEMPC.
This game was really rock, paper, scissors on the matchup. Like, this is a really awful matchup for ROPS.
And Pat, literally every round of this tournament, Pat has posted in chat in our, teams. Well, this is going to be the round I get eliminated. So,
Not so far.
yeah, I mean, Pat is playing spectacularly. He's got the right decks and he's playing the matchups well. Congratulations, Pat. Brad, top 4, heck of a showing. Well played for him. We'll have the other match of the top 4. I'm not exactly sure when. I think it might be on Tuesday. We've got the open MPC top 8 going on. We're going to be streaming those. There's going to be a lot coming out on Twitch, so keep an eye on your emails. Keep an eye on the socials. It'll get announced, I'm sure, on Slack, on Facebook, probably on the Discord, in the book club. Probably throw something in GEMP chat when it gets close. There'll be a whole lot going on, and then lots of live events going on. I mean, we just had the Naboo regional yesterday, along with Oregon States and Illinois States. I know this week is the Bespin regional that I'll be at, along with some other stuff. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Keep your eyes peeled. You got anything you want to add?
Nope. I think Andy is waiting for me for my Retro League game, so I'm going to drop off of here as well.
Go get your game in. Thanks for joining me, and everybody have a great night.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.